All right, if you're getting ready for university, there's one skill that is absolutely essential for writing great essays. I'm talking about summarizing. In this explainer, we're going to break down exactly how to do it right so you can feel totally confident. Let's dive in.
So, here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about why this skill is such a big deal. Then we'll look at the 3 main ways you can use sources in your writing. After that, I'm going to give you a simple, step-by-step formula you can use every single time. We'll even see it in action with some real examples. And finally, we'll go over the common mistakes so you know exactly what to watch out for.
So let's get right to it. Why does summarizing matter so much? Well, because at most English-speaking universities, it's not just a nice-to-have skill, it's a basic requirement. Your professors are going to hand you these long, sometimes really complex academic articles, and they expect you to be able to pull out the key ideas and present them briefly, and most importantly, in your own words.
Now, take a look at this number, 10%. This is a huge rule of thumb you need to know. At most universities, they only want about 10%, at the most, of your entire essay to be direct quotes from other people. That's it, just 10%.
So what does that really mean? It means quotes should be used very, very sparingly. Think about it. If only a tiny fraction of your paper can be direct quotes, what are you supposed to do for the other 90%? Well, that's where paraphrasing and especially summarizing come into play. The vast majority of your essay will depend on your ability to understand information and then explain it in your own voice.
And that brings us to the 3 main skills for using sources. You've got quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing. Now, we just talked about how quoting is pretty rare, so we're going to focus on the 2 you'll be using all the time, paraphrasing and summarizing. We really need to understand the difference between them.
So first, what exactly is summarizing? In the simplest terms, it's about boiling a text down to its absolute core. You're making it way shorter, you're only holding on to the main, most important ideas, and this part is non-negotiable. You have to use your own words and always, always add a citation.
This comparison makes the difference super clear. Okay, look at paraphrasing. The length is pretty similar to the original text, and you keep most of the ideas. But then you look at summarizing, and your version is much shorter. Why? Because you're only keeping the main ideas. You're getting rid of all the extra details, the examples, the little side stories.
So, how do you decide which one to use? It's actually pretty straightforward. You summarize when you're dealing with a big chunk of text, like a whole article or a chapter, and all you need is its main point. You paraphrase when one specific little idea is super important for your argument and you really need to explain it in detail.
Okay, now we're at the most practical part of this whole explainer. I'm about to give you a step-by-step formula that you can rely on every single time you need to write a summary. This is going to make it so much easier.
Let's walk through it together. Step 1, read the text and read it carefully so you really get it. Step 2, ask yourself a simple question. What is the number one thing the author is trying to say here? Step 3, you have to actively ignore the extra stuff, all the examples, the statistics, the minor points. Step 4, now try to write that main message in just 1 or 2 sentences using your own words. Step 5, go back and check. Does your summary actually mean the same thing as the original? Be honest. And finally, step 6, never ever forget to add that citation. And here's the ultimate test for yourself. After you've read the text, physically cover it up or look away from the screen. Can you explain the main idea out loud, maybe to a friend or just to yourself, without peeking? If the answer's no, you probably don't understand it well enough yet. And that's okay. Just read it again. Seriously, this one little trick will save you from so many headaches later.
Okay, theory is one thing, but let's actually see how this formula works in practice. We're going to look at a couple of examples right now to make this all crystal clear.
Okay, so here's our original paragraph. It has a few different pieces of information, right? Online learning is common, it's flexible, but there's a catch, it requires self-discipline. So out of all that, what do you think is the main message?
And here's the summary. See how that works? It perfectly captures that main idea, that trade-off between flexibility and independence. But notice what's gone. We don't have increasingly common or strong self-discipline. It's shorter, it's clearer, and it gets right to the heart of the matter.
This table is another great way to see the difference. The original sentence on the left has 3 distinct points. The paraphrase in the middle keeps all 3 of those points, it just changes up the words. But now, look at the summary on the right. It's much shorter. It combines formal language and logical organization into one simple idea, formal and structured conventions. It's just more concise.
I know I've said it before, but I have to say it again because it is so important.
Every single time you summarize someone else's idea, you must include a citation. If you don't, it's considered plagiarism, plain and simple. Your university uses software, you may have heard of Turnitin or SafeAssign, that scans every paper to check for this. A summary without a citation is a serious academic issue, so please, just make it a habit from your very first assignment.
All right, so you know the formula, but just as important is knowing how to avoid the common traps that students fall into. Let's look at the biggest mistakes so that you can steer clear of them.
Okay, this is a huge one. Take a look at the week's summary. It's way too close to the original text's wording and sentence structure. This is sometimes called patch writing, and it's basically just swapping a few words here and there. Those plagiarism checkers we talked about, they can easily flag this kind of thing. The correct summary on the right, however, completely rephrases the concept using new language and structure. That's the goal.
So here you go. Here's a final checklist you can use when you're reviewing your own summaries. Ask yourself, am I keeping too many little details? Is my sentence structure just a copy of the original? Is my summary almost as long as the original text? Did I, forget the citation? And this is a big one. Did I accidentally add my own opinions or ideas? A summary should only reflect what the original source says, nothing more.
So, after all these steps and all these rules and examples, what's the one thing, the single most important idea that you should walk away with?
It's this, right here. Summarizing isn't just some boring writing exercise you have to do. It is actual proof that you have truly and deeply understood a concept. When you can take someone else's complex idea and explain it simply, clearly, and accurately in your own words, you are showing real academic mastery. And that, right there, is the skill that's going to help you succeed.